Hello there, this is Beth. How are you today? So, welcome to June. How did it get to be June? Does anyone know how this happened? I mean, seriously, no. Year just started. What the hell? I feel like it just started. And now we're halfway through. I'm like, where did it go? How did this happen? But it did. So, just kind of there's like this intensity that's building for June, and it's just like, if I keep looking over here, Magnus is on the floor, and I'm seeing what my cat is doing. But there's like this intensity that's building for June, and I'm not sure what it's going to hold. I think it's going to hold different potentials for different people. Oh, Magnus. And that's really going to depend, what happens is really going to depend on where you are in your process. And I think too, mindset may also play a big role in that, in the fact, like, if you think, like, oh my god, this sucks, all is doom and gloom and the world is ending. Good boy, playing with toys. He's playing with his toys. If you have this doom and gloom mindset, it's gonna really be difficult. You're gonna go through, you're gonna start going through the hedge backwards right now, as opposed to waiting for eclipse season to do it. And by the time you get to eclipse season, and then you're being pulled back through that hedge backwards yet again, and then to the Lion's Gate, where you get a third time of it. Holy moly. You're going to be exhausted, wrung out, and just over everything. You want to bring in the mindset of, okay, so what's happening? Where am I feeling it in my body? And my cat is seriously playing. Where am I feeling it? First I had lawnmower. Now I got cat. I give up. You're just going to have to listen to cat play in the background. Sorry, people. Yeah, if you're like, hey, I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to pay attention to where this is showing up in my body and let it process through the body what is feeling there. Things that are energetic in mind show up in the body, no matter what you do. Things show up there. Common points are shoulders and hips. For some reason, those ball sockets, those kind of more mobile joints, as opposed to, like, the hinges of the elbow and the knees. Not that you can't get stuff hung up in elbows and knees, but it seems like those ball socket joints, like hips, forward momentum, holding you back, fear gets caught up in there. And the shoulders are an insertion point into the heart chakra. So anger, grief, sorrow, broken hearts, all can take up residence in the shoulders. Broken hearts can take up residence in the hips too. It can take up both, which is even worse. So pay attention to where you're feeling things. Are you feeling it in chakras? Are you feeling it in your organs, your glands, your skin, your muscle groups, joints? Pay attention to where you're processing energy this month. It's going to be a really, really important aspect of what's happening in June, and the intensity that is going to be unleashed, whatever that intensity is in your life. Because it really feels like there's so many different intensities depending on who you are and where you're at and what you're processing. Pay attention. Work it out. Be gentle with yourself. Be compassionate. For me, I hold, really, it originates right in my skull and scoops down the back into my upper back. And I hold so much tension there. Let me go let the cat out. He just shut the door. There. The door's open now. He shut it accidentally trying to get out. But yeah, I hold so much tension there. And yoga is how I work that tension out. It is my main way of getting that energy moving and getting things out of my muscles that are being stored there. And it's very effective. He just went and shut the door again. He's out of luck. Effective way for me of moving that energy. Things like yoga, Tai Chi, even martial arts, because they do work the energetic systems. Even Tai Chi is technically a martial art, though it's a softer form of it. So how do you do that? Do you go for walks? Do you meditate? Do you do relaxation pose? Okay, this is going to be like the hour-long video because now I am on segment 3. And that's never good. So, but pay attention to how you work that stuff out. That's going to be really important to the intensity of June. And if you don't do it now, you're going to be dealing with just feeling exhausted for the next 3 months, through June, July, and August. There's a lot of intensity building. There's a lot happening. And you need to be on top of it for yourself so you can make the most of it and not feel like you've been put in the blender and blended up. No one wants that. So, oh, he just left. But yeah, so lots of intensity. If you're feeling it, check out the Cosmic Shadow Light forecast. It's geared to help you cope with this kind of stuff. There is the Walking the World's Chakra Expansion classroom that walks you through the chakras, include the ones in your body and the Ascension model, along with the 3 worlds of the underground, middle world, and upper worlds. So you're working on your chakras, you're working on your with the worlds, and also with the things with ancestors, with the river of blood, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, yet another interruption. So, Cosmic Shadow Light forecast. It has the Walking the World Chakra Expansion, helps you build a spiritual framework. It's like 13 classes. It's 13 months of classes when I ran it live. And I decided to put it in with the Cosmic Shadow Light forecast reading because it just fits so well, and it creates a framework for you to base the work of the collective energy reading that goes more into depth than these do, along with PDF for suggestions for crystal grids and crystals and how ideas to use for the new moon and all sorts of stuff, workshops and rituals. It's just a total blast. And links down below. Everything pretty much is on the site. So just head over to the website if you want to check it out. But let's get into the reading before I get interrupted yet again. So I've got the Watchers Tarot. It's a Major Arcana Tarot, only Tarot. It was a limited edition. I think I have like 73 or something like that. So I doubt she has any more. I don't really know. Bought it on Etsy. And I got Sacred Rebels with me. Okay, so. Who we got? Oh, Judgment. So, okay. So what we got with Judgment? So where are we judging ourselves? Where are we judging others? But it feels more like, how are we internalizing judgment? How are we telling ourselves a story? And whose story are we listening to when it comes to our story? And then we're applying that really harsh judgment upon ourselves. Why are you doing this? Why are you kicking your own butt instead of supporting it? How can you be more beneficial and discerning in your judgment? Because judgment doesn't necessarily mean like, ooh, you're awful. It can mean, hey, wait a minute. You've been judged just right and awesome. Because we tend to see the negative side, like you've been judged guilty, not you've been judged innocent. We tend to go for that negative connotation with judgment. And this is encouraging you to go for the positive connotation this month. And pay attention to how you're using this with yourself, in your daily life, how you're judging others, how you view others that are judging you. Or if they're not judging you, do you view them as judging you, even when they're not? Really get aware and present with judgment in how it's working in your life, because this is a time where you really need to need to know what's going on there and not be like, yeah, it just sucks so much. See, I think that's part of the intensity. Remember how I'm talking about there's like this intensity and you got to be really nice to yourself and practice self-compassion and self-love instead of being like, oh yeah, I'm no good. I'm not that good. That painting's not that good. My writing's not that good. That's not that good. It's not perfect. What other judgments? I suck. I don't know. Not pretty enough. Not this enough. Not thin. I don't know. Whatever your judgment's showing up as, whether it's a mental judgment or judgment about your physical body, how can you bring compassion into judgment? How can you be like, yeah. I am that good. I am that awesome. I can be wonderful, and I can judge myself this, as opposed to judging myself no good. So really be aware of that as you're walking through this month, of where you're judging and where you're holding that judgment in your body, in your process, whether it's a spiritual process or just your life process. And that can be a very potent thing. Okay, so we got Sacred Rebels here. Okay, got. Ooh, okay. Put you back. So, okay, we have Defend to the End, the Worthwhile, which I think was in the Cosmic Shadow Light forecast reading for June, if I remember correctly. I could totally be... No, I don't think it is. I think it's a different one. Never mind. I'm lying. Oh, no, it came up in someone else's reading. I really like this card. So what is your worthwhile? See, this is a good place to use judgment. What's worthwhile in your life? Is saying, like, there was a while back where I was like, I'm going to try and exercise more. Try being the key word. I didn't try so hard. And then a couple of years ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to try. I'm just going to do it. I made this judgment call of like, there is no try. Brought up my inner Yoda and just did it. That was my judgment. That is a judgment. I was like, I'm not going to try. I'm just going to do it. I made a judgment call in my life that, yes, I was going to make exercise that important again. And I feel so much better because I did it. And that keeps me going. But it took kind of like a judgment of like, try or do. Okay, we just need to do it. And that's what you're using judgment for with this card, is what's worthwhile. What is worthwhile keeping in my life? What is worthwhile consuming in my life? That includes social media, the news. And sometimes you just got to turn that shiz off and take a break for a day or two or longer. It can get really overwhelming these days. And if you're an empath or a highly sensitive person, it's really going to be overwhelming, especially when you get whammoed by the collective, which I feel like at this point, we're so used to being whammoed by the collective over the last couple 2.5 years that we're kind of like, yeah, whatever. We just kind of like rock back and forth with that collective energy. And even though it's hitting us, I don't think it gets quite internalized as much as it was before. I think we're all doing a better job at kind of going, and shunting that off back to the universe. And if you're not, to the Shadow Light forecast stuff can help you learn how to do this kind of stuff of managing your energy system. So it's an empath, which would be me, absorbing stuff, And since I do a lot of work with collective energy for people like you on YouTube and with the Cosmic Shadow Light forecast and other places, I tend to have a little bit more like my finger tapped in there than other people do. And so you have to become more aware of where that energy is coming from. And so is it worthwhile for you to be consuming this energy is what it comes down to. If it is, defend it to the end. If it's not, then you need to look how you control it and utilize it within your life. And how you want to do that. You don't have to be full-blown insano. You can move in and out of activism within your life. There are ways that you can express things. Like in my art, when the start of the whole thing with, I'm not technically asylees yet, migrants. Asylees and refugees are very technical terms that are very defined by your legal status in a country. People who have fled their homes due to violence. I have a whole migrant series of paintings. I have a bunch of series of paintings that are coming out of women's self-autonomy being in jeopardy yet again. And that's how things are coming out. That's how I'm expressing that. So I can move into defending what's worthwhile for me in my life. How do I show up for that? And right now that's in my art. and processing it there so I can know, so I can create some form of judgment to know what it is that I need to defend and what's worthwhile to me. We want to get really clear about that because there's going to be a lot going on. The collective is just insane right now. It's just always insane. It doesn't stop. Every once in a while there's like half a breath and we're like, whew. But mainly it's total cray. And we're getting kind of used to it, which is in a way sad. That we are becoming accustomed to the crazy and the collective. And I think that's why judgment's here. It's like we need to judge what's worthwhile for us. And the other card is vision beyond. Visions of life beyond death. And I really feel like this is us connecting. I feel like this reading's really internal for everybody. It's not dealing so much with the external world. Well, okay, and how we deal with the external world. But we're working on the internal aspects of self so we can move into what we want to be. So we can deal with the intensity that's building for June. That's going to show up where you are. It's going to meet you at your doorstep. Don't worry. You're ready for this. Trust me, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready. You may not think you are, but you are. And it's like this idea of going beyond what we think we are. Visions of life beyond death. Death is simply can be a metaphor for change. There's a lot going on. We got peacocks and ravens and owls. And that would be a male peacock because of the tail. I feel like this is really just telling us to use our inner wisdom and know who we are internally. Don't be like, oh yeah, don't fall into judgment in a negative part. Know where your boundaries are and defend them because that's what's worthwhile. Whether it's social media, news, people, yourself. Judge what your boundaries are. Know them. Enforce them. And that allows you to have room to do the internal work you need to do. So you can see beyond the change. So you can see beyond what you're struggling with. And move into modalities that are really super duper awesome. Everyone wants super duper awesome. So you start with the intensity in June. If you've been with me for a while, you've been setting up. You've been setting up since April for this. And now is the time to start using that setup. It's hitting a little bit earlier than I thought it would. So prepare for this intensity. We're going through a refinement period right now, if I think might be a good way to put it. You've had like this buildup when we had like crazy retrograde of, not Palace, Ceres. Palace just went direct the other week, thank God. Although she just kind of hummed in the background. She's an asteroid. But Ceres, dwarf planet, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn all remain in retrograde at this point in time. That's a lot of energy going on. And that started in April and continued into May. And it's going to continue into June. And at the end of the month, I think it's endish month, mid-end month somewhere, Neptune goes retrograde too. So things can get super watery. There's a lot going on up in the heavens. And I find it really interesting because I picked up across the room, I can't, like horoscope for yourself or something like that, by the lady who did the Asteroid Goddess book. And I'm realizing that astrology is really interesting and I really just want other people to explain it to me. I'm trying to learn more. I want to learn more of just basic astrology so I understand my own chart a little bit better. And to having started working with the retrogrades, wanting to understand the basis of astrological connections with those as opposed to just basing on my own learning about Greco-Roman mythology and such. But yeah, but there's a lot of crazy going on in the stars, in the collective, and your job is to be like, which part of the crazy am I willing to participate in or not? And you can dive in and dive out. It's not about sprinting completely to the end. It's like when people say, like, it's a marathon, they're meaning like the long distance. But the truth is, when you're doing long distance, yeah, there's some walking, there's some running, and sometimes you're faster than you see the end and you sprint. And sometimes you do sprint. Even in long distance running. So, okay. I have the chakra cards. These are the cards I made for chakra. Walking the World's Chakra Expansion. There's only one set of these, and it's like what kept me like knowing where I was at. So the middle world, and that's us. We're dealing with our world. The middle world is where we live in and exist. It is part of magic, and it is part of a magical system. And I think we tend to forget that even the world we live in is a magical realm. Because it's where we live. It's where we exist. We're so used to it. And with judgment and setting boundaries and getting ourselves, doing our internal work, I think it pays a lot of sense. There's a lot to pay attention to in middle world, our world right now. There's a lot of things that need our attention as witches, as magicians, whatever your modality is, of healing the earth, healing ourselves, healing nation states, bringing unity and peace into the world. There's a lot that needs to be healed. And you can start with the microcosm of self, of healing yourself in order to heal the middle world. The more of us who heal ourselves, the more resilient, the more strength we will have internally to go out there into the world and do what we need to do, or what speaks to us, because not all of us are going to have the same calling. Not all of us are going to have the same thing that we get excited about. Yeah, I get excited about trees and women's rights. Two things I've been excited about like majority of my life. Yeah, I was 13, probably like 13, 14 when I started identifying as a feminist, because I realized that what I'm going to walk into as a woman when I grow up is not the same thing a man's going to walk in. I don't hear stories about men being sexualized when they're children. I was like in 4th grade when I first, that's scary, 4th grade. And some people it's younger. It's kind of sad. But, there's women's rights. Something that I felt very passionate about from junior high on up. And trees. I love trees. I talk to trees. Trees talk to me. Actually, they started talking to me before I started talking to them, at least that I remember. I like trees. So, those are kind of my things. Trees, women's rights. What are yours? And that's why we have the need to use our judgment, so we can discern what's really important to us and defend to the end what's worthwhile in our life. And that means setting up boundaries. Boundaries super important. Saturn's in retrograde. Our boundaries and limitations are totally being tested. And I feel like the visions of life beyond death is really kind of the Pluto, or that transformation quality that Pluto has. Very Tower-esque energy it can bring into our lives. And we want to make that our magic and not step away from it, so we can move through the middle world, our world, full, in our totality, healed and strong, resilient, and start to heal the realm we live in. Okay. Whew, that went somewhere I didn't know it was going to go. So, take care of yourself. Bring in self-love. Set your boundaries. Nurture. Bring in help when you need it. You don't have to do this alone. And, one of the ways you can do that is book a tarot reading too. Specialize in change reading. So if you're going through a transformation, I am your person, because that is my modality of helping people feel that sweet spot in their change, as opposed to crawling under the bed and hiding from it. So June, lots of intensity building. Depending on where you're in process, it's going to show up in different ways for different people. And everyone have a wonderful month, and I will see you in July when eclipse season starts. Woohoo! Alrighty, bye-bye. Go out there and be the love in the world.